What conspiracy theories turned out to be true? Colombia's government and high-rank military officials killed farmers and poor people just to get personnel promoted and support from people. The bodies had uniforms just like the ones guerrilla soldiers used to wear. People started noticing that something was wrong with these guerrillero bodies when the boots in some of the bodies were backwards and a lot of people went missing from villages. Colombia is super corrupt. I think they even found out recently that the high-ranking military was selling weapons to the guerrillas for cash. Many of the weapons were US aid to the Colombian military. I dated a Colombian who had dual citizenship and was super connected to the government. When we were in high school, US, and stuff about his family came up, stories never really added up. I think they just never told him the whole story, ever. Then I visited with him when we turned 18, and I was held up in customs. They took my passport. I got yelled at in Spanish, so I started name dropping big names. All of a sudden they let me go after 45 minutes after that, and finding out his family paid roughly $30k to keep him from doing his mandatory military term. I stopped asking questions. I lived in Oregon in the 70s and 80s. Everyone always talked about how the Evergreen Airport was used by the CIA, but they always denied it. The truth finally came out, and the airport ended up closing afterwards. https://n.wikipediapoint.org/wiki/evergreen_international_airlines. My father, who I previously thought was insane, was convinced the meds the military used to prevent malaria caused serious and permanent behavioral health issues. 30 years later, I was prescribed a different malaria med as a preventative before a trip, and I jokingly mentioned my father's theory to the document. Mefloquine. Yeah, that's actually true. That's why we switched to this one. Edit. The conspiracy part is that the Department of Defense has known for a very long time, at least as far back as the 80s, that mefloquine causes some fucked up psychiatric problems, in some cases permanently. They vehemently denied the issues were caused by mefloquine and instead blamed PTSD, stress, and pre-existing issues. They have since conceded, albeit not formally, that mefloquine causes serious issues and now use doxycycline and Malero. Now stop and grilling me about how this isn't a conspiracy theory. Mefloquine dreams are so vividly fucked. Source: Camp Phoenix, Afghanistan. I believe it now. I was talking to a dude who served in Desert Storm, and he said not only did it cause fucked up dreams, it would even induce permanent behavioral health issues in some dudes. I guess we switched to Malerone in the late 2000s, which I only took for maybe a month on a short TDY in Africa, and I was really paranoid about BH effects. Ernest Hemingway believed he was being followed by the FBI. It was passed off as paranoid delusions by the medical community and the world at large, and was allegedly a major contributing factor to his suicide. But the Freedom of Information Act revealed that Hemingway was an amateur agent in Cuba during the war, but also seen as a potential communist sympathizer by the FBI, who did later follow him. It played a major role in his suicide, though obviously there were many other factors. What? Yeah, if you were even slightly left-wing you usually had the FBI investigating you for being a communist sympathizer or even a spy. Einstein, MLK, Paul Robeson, Hemingway, Fitzgerald, and many others have huge files devoted to their activities. Hell, even I have a file probably filled with videos by Zizek and Wolf. Granted, it's a small file and I could technically still get hired by a government agency. Edit. This blew up more than I wanted to. Long story short, I have an extremely tiny file. My captain laughed at how small it is. I'm not sure what's in it, nor do I know why I'm not flagged. From what I know, I do have a former mentor who now works with the Air War College, which might have something to do with my original file. Project Encultura. Basically the government was experimenting on people. It is super fucked up. Link https://n.mwikipediapoint.org/wiki/project_encultura. Fun fact, My university was heavily involved in the program and I now live within walking distance of the now unused asylum, where many of the experiments took place. Take some pics, dude. Do it at night for maximum effect, though. MK Ultra was 50 years ago. Imagine how much better they are at mind control now. Perhaps all these mass shooters are programmed to kill, so the government can justify spying on the public and eventually disarming us. Now this is a conspiracy theory, just waiting for this post to be remade in 50 years, and for this to turn out to be true. My grandfather was afraid of moving into a nursing home or living alone. He was convinced people working in elderly medical care were out to get him. A few years later, a local nurse is in the news as a serial killer who believed she was doing the right thing, ending lives early. Around the same time, a home visiting nurse, who was supposed to help him, got frustrated and hit him, so I removed her from the house, which was something he wouldn't have been able to do. After reporting that nurse everywhere, she was still doing home visits for an acquaintance, until I told him to. https://www.cbc.ca/news/canada/london/Woodstock, Ontario. Elizabeth Wetlaw for Public Inquiry Report 1.5230181. https://www.cbc.ca/news/canada/lond on/Woodstock, Ontario. Elizabeth Wetlaw for Public Inquiry Report 1.5230181. As someone who works in home care myself, I cannot believe she was still in the field after that. Here in the US, that is enough to lose your license, not just your job. As a CNA, I'm not even allowed to defend myself against a resident in a nursing home, let alone hit them. /r/actual conspiracies. Governments and corporations are actually spying on us. What's sad about that is, when it was revealed to be true, we all just shrugged, because it was something we all believed anyway. It didn't bother me before, because I was in the well I have nothing to hide camp. It really isn't even the invasion of my personal privacy that bothers me, it's the mass invasion, and the massive data set, that gives these agencies/companies Cambridge Analytica and how they were able to determine how many people were needed to swing an election, determine how to sway those people, and then successfully do that. That scares me a lot. I'm not too prideful to admit that I can be subliminally swayed pretty easily. 5 years before Snowden. It didn't bother me before, because I was in the well I have nothing to hide camp. It really isn't even the invasion of my personal privacy that bothers me, it's the mass invasion, and the massive data set, that gives these agencies/companies Cambridge Analytica and how they were able to determine how many people were needed to swing an election, determine how to sway those people, and then successfully do that. That scares me a lot. I'm not too prideful to admit that I can be subliminally swayed pretty easily. Hope they like Nightcore and Rocket League and sissy hypno porn. Watergate. It started out as a conspiracy theory, but gained enough evidence to turn into the scandal that we all know today. And spawned unimaginative gate titles for conspiracies until the end of time to .smh. This part bothers me so much. The gate in Watergate is literally part of its name. Adding gate to everything makes no sense, and it just detracts from the seriousness of situations at this point. New York Times political columnist William Safire, a former Nixon speechwriter, created a trend by coining at least 20 gates, some say as a way of undermining criticism of his former boss. This part bothers me so much. The gate in Watergate is literally part of its name. Adding gate to everything makes no sense, and it just detracts from the seriousness of situations at this point. The government is listening to your phone calls and reading personal messages. I wonder if some government agent is reading our personal messages like a TV soap opera and goes, oh what a ... Tom and Jenny are breaking up. I read Tom and Jerry. Drug money is used to rig elections and train brutal, corporate-sponsored dictators around the world. They are trying to build a prison for you and me to live in. The business plot.
The 1930s robber barons attempted a violent overthrow of FDR's government. https://endpointwikipedia.org/wiki/business_plot with the intention of installing fascism. Smedley Butler, the man they had hoped would lead their coup, exposed them, making them look ridiculous and leading to a cover-up, but nonetheless rendering the plot a failure. They destroyed his career, which never recovered, and he died in obscurity in Westchester, Pennsylvania. There's a good chance that we would have seen a fascist/Nazi takeover of the country had one man not sacrificed his career to prevent it. Despite his heroism, few people today know his name. The global elitist pedophile ring. This one should have been the least outlandish. It's well known that child sex trafficking, sex tourism and pornography exists. But when you suggest that elites might be involved, it's somehow conspiracy theory. Watching this https://mediapointchrist.genia.org/system/files/1/video/dr%20phil%20ma%, 2021%, 2017.mp4. Dr. Phil episode. I can't believe he aired this. Made me realize the horror these children go to. He interviews a lady who he believes was a child trafficking victim, but it goes way beyond sexual abuse. She claims hunting children is also a part of it. Cannibalism and ritual abuse/sacrifice. It's insane, and it hurt me to see the story of the global elitist pedophile ring from the point of view from one of the children. Edit. Fix the link. The CIA funding drug smuggling and dealing. And we still don't understand the border situation. Which we created. Because decided. Fuck it. The CIA kickstarted the crack epidemic that devastated many US black urban areas in the 80s in order to pay for death squads in Central America. There was an investigative series in the mid-90s written by a journalist named Gary Webb in the San Jose Mercury News where he chronicled the CIA's trafficking of cocaine on behalf of the anti-communist Contras in Nicaragua. This got picked up by several other larger newspapers and prompted several official government investigations. The paper got pushback, which eventually led to them retracting parts of the investigative series, and the official government reports whitewashed the entire thing, and Gary Webb resigned in disgrace. He would later kill himself in 2004. TLDR. Journalist at medium-sized newspaper expose CIA drug trafficking helped lead to crack explosion. The government and journalists from bigger papers destroy him. He dies from 2 shots to the head, which is ruled a suicide. His reporting appears to be mostly true. The CIA added drug trafficking to their playbook during the Vietnam War, or at least perfected it. US troops were also guarding poppy fields in Afghanistan prior to our current opioid epidemic. We guarded them because the farmers still needed a source of income, or they'd join the Taliban for $20. We also guarded schools, hospitals, a shitton of goats, and a bunch of other random shit that the locals were involved with to stabilize their lives so they wouldn't fuck off into the mountains and fuck up ours. We guarded them because the farmers still needed a source of income, or they'd join the Taliban for $20. We also guarded schools, hospitals, a shitton of goats, and a bunch of other random shit that the locals were involved with to stabilize their lives so they wouldn't fuck off into the mountains and fuck up ours. You know the whole birds aren't real conspiracy theory? Well, it's funny because there was a thing in the 1960s called Project Acoustic Kitty. https://endpointwikipedia.org/wiki/acoustic_kitty, where the CIA wanted to put microphones and transmitters inside of cats and use them to spy on the Soviets. It cost about $20 million and was a huge failure, and allegedly the first cat they wired was hit by a car and killed very soon after they let it go. Now, I'm not saying that birds are being used to spy on us, but it's crazy to think that the government did actually try something like that. So actual proof that our tax dollars are being well spent. I feel so much better now. I would have enjoyed listening in on that brainstorm meeting, though.
Why don't we just, I dunno, strap a bunch of fucking microphones to some cats or some shit. ... Semicolon. Well, I don't have any better ideas. Sure. Have $20 million. Dunno if it would count, or if it was known, but just not widely known. But planned obsolescence by mobile phone companies. People suspected their phones were being slowed down on purpose when a new phone arrived. Changed companies to companies. Operation Northwoods. The Joint Chiefs of Staff drew up and approved plans to create terrorist acts on US soil to drum up support for a war and invasion of Cuba in the 1960s. President Kennedy rejected the plan, which included innocent Americans being shot dead on the streets, boats carrying refugees fleeing Cuba to be sunk on the high seas, a wave of violent terrorism to be launched in Washington DC, Miami, and elsewhere, people being framed for bombings they did not commit, and planes being hijacked. Plans. No. A badly written memo that included such sophisticated ideas as make the CIA plan the events. Actually read it, and it becomes clear why Kennedy rejected it and then demanded the head of the Joint Chiefs resignation. It did include bits such as blowing up ships of students and making fake funerals. Systematic pedophilia in the Catholic Church. It was an open secret that for whatever reason was suppressed by the church, its members and even its victims. It may have been an open secret among the clergy, but they kept congregations in the dark about it. I didn't know about it until the accusations became public accusations, and then they swept up some of the mess and said, "There, we've got him. If any other priests, or anyone else, does this, here's a number you can call to anonymously report them." Then came the latest scandal, where we found out about the bishops and cardinals who not only allowed this to continue, but punished priests of good conscience who reported other priests. I think the problem of the congregations is that we forgot that priests are just humans like the rest of us. We automatically accorded them respect, and they outwardly appeared to earn that respect. Indeed, the evil that they did in secret did not prevent them from giving inspiring sermons, comforting the sick and the dying, and so on. People who saw the good that priests didn't want to believe that they could also do great evil. We couldn't reconcile the idea that the guy who comforted grandpa in his dying moments was also sexually molesting his altar boys and or his students. People who do horrible things don't wear black hats and have thin mustaches that they twirl with their fingers. I had a high school classmate who was in the group of guys I ate lunch with who was calm and quiet and never displayed any violent tendencies. Then it came out that he was addicted to cocaine. And when his 9-year-old brother caught him using and was going to tell their parents, he bashed his brother's skull in and killed him. Nobody saw that in him beforehand. Nobody. The thing is, in spite of all this horrific behavior, most priests don't molest children or rape nuns, or commit other sins that rise to the level of crimes. But outwardly, the bad ones and the good ones appear the same. They both do the same good things in public. It's what they do in secret that separates them. That's why it's so easy to naively think that all of them are good, or to lump all of them together and cynically believe they're all bad. Neither one is the truth. Villains who twirl their mustaches are easy to spot. Those who cloak themselves in good deeds are well camouflaged. Jane Luck the Kid.